guys. Yeah, let's just do a quick intro here. Looks like we're at the 7:02 mark. Hey guys, thank you guys for joining us in today. So it's time for that time of the month where we give you the latest updates and news on IX Swap for our January AMA. Joining us here today is Julian Kwan. Still waiting for Aaron on, co-founder. But yeah, Julian, any words you'd like to give to anyone tuning in tonight?
Yeah, thanks for everyone for joining. I guess, Happy New Year. This is the first AMA for 24. We had a really exciting Q4 last year, and I think, yeah, this this month, this quarter, this year is going to be really, really strong for the platform. So, yeah, good to be here, and I know you've been hosting a bunch of these, Gene, even ones I couldn't make. So, yeah, let's jump in for all those that turned up on time, and I know where we'll record this for any of the other community members who couldn't make it.
All right, yeah, let's get into it. I think Aaron will be joining us shortly. There's a few questions on here. Julian, did you want to get into these questions, or did you want to get updates on some questions that common kind of topics the community's been waiting for, such as Q1 exchange listing and STO listings?
Yeah, we definitely should answer the questions. Maybe I'll just share a little bit of a general overview for everyone as well, because a lot of the people can't read those questions. Yeah, look, I think that there's been considerable progress in the last couple of months. I think really, if you look back from Q2 last year, let's call it August, September, you really started to see more appetite and growing volumes coming into into the industry. The industry on that side, being given a new name, which was the real world asset, the RWA, real world asset token narrative, which kind of has now superseded the old terminology, which used to be security tokens. But anyway, the RWA narrative grew really strong at the end of last year as more and more people were buying these financial instruments that were being tokenized, like tokenized treasuries and money market funds that were paying really decent returns, I think up to 6 or 7% at one point. And they were built as, blockchain native, real world assets. So they were issued on chain. And the only way to buy these, well, predominantly, I shouldn't say the only, but predominantly, the only way to invest into these real world asset tokens was to actually use cryptocurrency. So we started to sort of really get the first, a new subset of like assets that were very useful, because treasuries and money market funds, these are very, very useful and very large assets in traditional finance. And we could start to see the first use case for them in the crypto per se. And the use case was yield and it's the same use case in TradFi. So what we've seen now in the last 6 months is a real kind of growth from the DeFi, the crypto side of the world, the DeFi side versus the TradFi side. And that's actually brought it all closer together, because the TradFi guys then started seeing, all right, well, we should be tokenizing these treasuries as well. We should get in on this game, not just literally DeFi guys that put these assets together. So I think, the importance of that is that we've now got, we went from, security tokens over the last couple of years, predominantly being people launching some kind of debt or equity instrument, trying to raise money, real estate, startups, etc., which continues today and continues to grow and evolve around the world. And now we've started to get the first financial instruments, and that's just adding more use case and more usability. And you're starting to see a lot of inbound inquiries, at least from our platform side, from cryptocurrency exchanges and other, DeFi platforms that are looking to invest or issue or launch or add these assets to their platforms. And we'll also be releasing in the next week or two. It's target for next week, actually. A thought piece related to kind of all the licensing around these real world asset tokens, because it's a really big question mark and a really big topic. And the topic is, what's legal, what license would you need or not need, depending on what type of asset it is. And to summarize it, this article, which goes quite deep, we've got our legal team working on it as well as the business team. To summarize it, a lot of these real world asset tokens projects are launching. And the interesting thing is, unlike other types of tokenized assets in the past, like meme coins and NFTs and DAOs and all this, predominantly the people who are launching these RWA assets are actually ex-TradFi people. Because if you're going to tokenize a treasury bill, you kind of have to know how treasury bills work. If you're going to tokenize money market fund, you're going to have to come from that industry. Otherwise, you're kind of wasting your time. You don't know what you're doing. All those guys actually understand the importance and the necessity for licensing around securities, right? So the interesting kind of evolution of this is that the people issuing the STOs are not just doing it to raise money. They're building new products that are more infrastructure layers, like not infrastructure layers, the wrong word. They're conduits, and they're very useful pieces of the whole financial landscape, like deposits and treasury bills and all this kind of stuff. It's very, very useful, whether it's crypto, DeFi, or TradFi. So there's this new subset of assets coming in, and it's actually being led by people that generally know what they're doing. In that asset class, again, tokenized treasury bill. It's usually treasury bill guys that are doing it. And then, what that's meant is, and those assets are blockchain native, right? So the other really important thing is that in the last couple of years, the security tokens have predominantly been tokenizing a security. So there's a company share or a fund. That's a piece of paper, because that's how governments issue shares. And then people create the security token to represent a share of the paper share. So that meant, I should say, that you had a lot of people that said, oh, well, I don't really need the token, right? I can just buy a piece of paper, or I don't need to buy this security token with cryptocurrency. I could just send fiat money. So it was like the value of it wasn't so obvious, let's just say. But in the real world asset space, there is no paper. Like the tokens are the product, and to buy them, you must use crypto. So it's really exciting, because like the RWA narrative has really brought real security tokens, i.e. paperless based securities, to the marketplace, and it's really lit up the excitement on the DeFi side for what else is there to come and what's more. And on the licensing front, it's generally and this, I'll try to summarize it, because there's many different assets and there's many different rules around it. But you're seeing a lot of RWA platforms, they're launching their own product, right? So that's fine. If I want to tokenize my shares of my company, I can do that all day long. I don't need a new license. I don't need an exchange license. I don't need a broker-dealer license. I don't need any of that, because I'm just selling my own product. The tricky part is as soon as someone else wants to sell, and then you want to have a secondary venue for that. And that becomes problematic. There's other groups out there that we're speaking to now in terms of collaboration. They're tokenizing stocks, they're tokenizing bonds, they're tokenizing, these are all different groups. And again, a lot of them have been able to get their project off the ground because issuing your own shares is fine, but that's very limiting, right? Because everyone's only got so much capital. And if people tokenize, ABC product, if it does well, then they're going to look at the next, tokenized DEF product. And again, most of these guys are out of money. So the reason I bring that up is because the value proposition of the IX Swap platform was to help all those products. We can help people launch on a primary issue when they're first selling their RWA. Then there's the secondary trading, there's the OTCs, there's the swaps, and there's all these other exciting things that you can do with the assets on the platform, that we can provide those services to all of the RWA products and platforms out there. Which is why in the last couple of months, we've also been really pushing on the RWA accelerator. And the RWA accelerator is really exciting because it's a concept like most accelerators. So, what's an accelerator? It's a program to help generally startups raise money and launch their products, right? And there's many different flavors, but a lot of them provide capital, a lot of them provide advice, a lot of them provide network, all this kind of stuff. So the RWA accelerator that IXSwap's launched is doing all of that for RWA projects. So what does that mean? It means that there's a lot of people who want to, again, launch these real world asset projects. Again, often there's some kind of licensing required. Licensing takes years. So we're now they're now able to come in. If we like the projects, it all makes sense, etc. We can then basically help sponsor and launch their products for them on our platforms, because we've got the tech, we've got the licenses, and then secondary trading, etc. So this can basically save projects 90-95% of time and cost, instead of trying to go get all the licenses themselves. So if you want to go get some kind of basic securities license, it's going to take you a year. maybe 2, and maybe even 3, 4. Depends on the complexity of the business model. So that's really exciting as well, because again, it's just like we can help. And then those people launching those products, those RWA products, can actually then focus on the product itself, raising money, doing whatever, or tokenizing whatever it is, some equity or debt. And all the tech and the licenses and all the secondary trading and everything can just be handled by IX Swap. And so that's another sort of thing that we've been working on, or you'll work on it as well, Gene. And I think that's kind of exciting. So that's kind of there's a lot of other stuff going on, but I think there's kind of a bit of an intro to a bit more of what's been happening, what's going on in the space right now, and then I think maybe we can jump into the questions so we get enough time to go through them all.
Yeah, thanks for that in-depth narrative of what's been going down so far in IXS and the general tokenization space and market. I guess let's go into the first question here. How well is the integration of InvestX to Base Network going?
Well, it's done. It's completed. So InvestorX is integrated with Base Protocol, and it's also integrated with Coinbase Web3 wallet. And the whole point of that is that, let's talk about that. So, Coinbase is one of our investors and has been for a couple of years. I think the activity that we're starting to see today, I was hoping to do a couple of years ago. Why has it taken some time? Predominantly because Coinbase has been under attack by the SEC for years. The SEC was claiming like all crypto was security. So the last thing Coinbase could do was then start launching security tokens, right? So Gary Gensler and team have directly impacted our businesses as many others as well. But now that's starting to get clarity, and it's now becoming obvious that Bitcoin and I think Ethereum and all that, at least in the SEC's eyes, is crypto. So, and what's happened at Coinbase is there's about 15,000 institutions. There's 110 million retail wallets, individual wallets, and there's over 15,000 institutions. So Coinbase is the dominant player, on the regulated side of crypto. Binance is obviously the biggest still, but did many things, in a very different way. Coinbase went, for, which is now going to pay off in spades for those guys, because they are the only listed cryptocurrency group in America on the exchange side. And they're now, I think, going to be custodizing 10 of the 11 ETFs. I think the only one they're not custodizing is Fidelity, who can do it themselves. They're $1 trillion financial institution. And so Coinbase has also recently launched Project Diamond. And Project Diamond essentially is Coinbase's, and Coinbase also bought an asset management company. And so Project Diamond is essentially their first real world asset security token play. Let's just call it real world assets today, because that's the narrative that is now taken over in terms of terminology. And Coinbase is setting up Project Diamond in Abu Dhabi. And don't quote me on all this stuff. This is me trying to summarize millions of discussions that we have all day. But I believe that set up in Abu Dhabi, trying to get securities licenses, I believe it's as important as like some of the most senior top management in Coinbase and moving to Abu Dhabi to make this happen. And we've just recently, actually, they released their demo publicly, I think. If you watch the demo of the first version of Project Diamond, it looks and feels exactly like the InvestorX exchange. And to summarize that, we were one of the first in the market who believed in public chain issuance for real world assets, not private chains. Most groups built their own private blockchains. Because it's easier to get approval for licenses, and because they don't understand blockchain and they don't really get it. And that's, to me, is a real waste of time, because all of the assets in the digital asset space that matter are issued on public chains. There's nothing that's been issued on a private blockchain that anyone cares about. Slowly the world's starting to get it, but then it's starting to come much faster. Actually, I just saw a Franklin Templeton Twitter post, which people should go follow the Franklin Templeton Twitter handle. It's crazy. They've got some degen running it. This is kind of wild. This financial institution is. You just got to look at the Twitter handle. Gene, I think I sent you one of the links today. I actually pinged the Franklin Temple people I know to check that really is the account, because it's interesting, exciting. It also shows who they're trying to target. They're definitely not trying to target 80-year-old people. They're trying to target people who are probably missing on this phone call. But the point is that the whole look, feel, design, and intent of Project Diamond is real world asset tokens, like no paper, obviously having to have some legalities around it and securities, and trying to push all that forward. So, um, so we're so we're speaking about. So I've been going on a few different tangents here, Gene. But what was the? I'm trying to answer what exact question. Sorry, it's been a long day.
Right, right. No, no, it's all good. Yeah, we were just asking about how was the integration of Invest
Oh,
X network. Yeah.
sorry. So yes, I'm also super jet lagged. But so it's going really well. So the next step was like you can issue on base now, if you're issuing an asset, um, and we think that and the whole point of doing that originally was, we believed that Coinbase would remain and become, they were already one of the big leaders. They're now, Brian Armstrong in particular is super bullish on RWA, and we're looking at how can we do more, and they've got an insane amount of smart people on the team. They've started with simple debt products, and then we're just looking at doing a lot more. So that's as much as I'd say about it now. But very, very, I got a call with them again tomorrow. I think it makes a lot of sense, and it's not just Coinbase. When we think about collaboration partnerships, we think that, I think I mentioned this today, but in the same kind of, I guess, vein as this topic. What's interesting, Coinbase is not the right example for this, but let's talk about every other crypto exchange. And I mean, because most of them didn't start out, on day one trying to get regulated and stuff. But if you think about assets, stocks, forex, whatever, crypto, all these major assets historically trade in their own venues because rules, regulations, and the nature and the characteristics of certain assets. So what's the point of saying that? It's like we've been getting a lot of inbound inquiries. I say if you go back 2 years, you saw the very first real world asset tokens being launched by cryptocurrency exchanges in the wrong way. So the infamous FTX, Binance Bitfinex 2021 launched the first tokenized stocks on their platform, which are security tokens, which are real world asset tokens. We couldn't understand what they were doing because they were basically listing securities inside unregulated cryptocurrency exchanges. And we knew that that wouldn't go down well with any regulators, and very quickly they got into hot water. Fast forward now 2 years, and you now have the next evolution of this and the next wave of this, which is Coinbase coming at it in the right way, trying to get licenses. And again, that's Coinbase, who are SEC, Nasdaq listed, regulated exchange. Now, for the rest of the crypto guys, just rolling some out, Bybit, Upbit, BitThumb, whoever, KuCoin, whatever. I mean, there's just no way in the world that any of these guys are going to get securities licenses. Okay, there's a very tiny percentage of them that are getting it securities licenses. Most of them are still fighting to get cryptocurrency licenses, right? And we're not in a world in the current, I don't know, couple of years. There's not going to be security tokens, real world asset tokens, and cryptocurrencies trading on exactly the same platforms anytime soon, right? Or it might be soonish, but it's not in the foreseeable future. And specifically, the super majority of cryptocurrency exchanges are not going to get approved for securities licenses. You're not going to be sitting there for years trying to get a cryptocurrency license in a regulation, trying to explain that it's not a security, and then go back the next day and say, knock, knock, hello, regulators. Oh, we'd also like to now launch securities. Can you give us a license for that? And we're all going to have it on the same platform. So the reason that I bring this up is because we can provide the whole back end for every single one of these players. We originate the assets, we have the tech, we have the licenses, we have the KYC, we have the payment modules. Essentially, IXSwap's back end could be the back end for every cryptocurrency exchanges or any other type of platform that wants to sell real world asset tokens that doesn't have the licenses. So I think ultimately that's where I wanted the relationship with Coinbase to go. that's where it is going, and it's not just them. This is big. This is a big deal. So these are big deals, I should say. Like there's a lot of complexities with that, but we're starting to see. I think we've had in the last couple of weeks, like 4 major crypto players reach out and say we want to get into RWA. How do we do it? Or we want to launch RWAs ourselves, and it's like, no, you can't. You're not going to be able to do that anytime soon. But hey, we can help you do that. So I think that there'll be more and more of this coming out. I always believed, if you think about the banking world, from a business model, banks simply started, providing a product. At one point, there was only one thing, and then built a user base, and then spends all day long trying to sell them new stuff, right? Cryptocurrency exchanges will be exactly the same. Especially group, like Coinbase got 110 million users. Like, what else can we sell them, right? And even on the market making front, slightly related, we've had a bunch of conversations recently with market makers. I'm talking cryptocurrency market makers, who some of them are getting very bullish on trying to work out how to become market makers for the real world asset space, because something that we say for a long time, but just factually, is the real world asset industry will be much bigger than the crypto industry, because there's way more real world assets than there are crypto, and there always will be, right? There's trillions of dollars of real world assets out there. There's less than $1 trillion of crypto, and that'll just exponentially grow. So let's jump into the next question, Jim, before we run out of too much time.
All right, thanks for that, Julian. I think we more or less already answered question number 2, which is, will IXSwap be integrated into Base this year? If there's anything else you want to add to that, if not, we can just jump into the next question.
Yeah, we're looking at doing that. So IXSwap was built on Ethereum and Polygon. It was built initially because we're now coming into almost the 3rd year since inception of idea, at least. And Ethereum used to dominate the security token issuance as the protocol. That was it. And then Polygon was used to reduce all the fees, so like all the layer 2s. So that was the original. That is the original underlining protocols. But yeah, we've just been brought into the Base Builders channel, which is a private channel of the key platforms they're building on Base. That's orchestrated by Coinbase. So yeah, we're now looking at what the next moves are for IXSwap on the protocol layer. On the protocol layer as well. And yeah, Base is very, very high on the priority list.
Okay, thanks for that answer, Julian. And I guess we already briefly touched on this, but question number 3 is, what impact will the Bitcoin ETF have on RWAs, and how quickly do you predict growth to happen as a result?
Well, Bitcoin historically is. I love Bitcoin. It's historically been the driver of all assets in the digital asset space. When Bitcoin's going up, everything's going up. When Bitcoin's going down, everything's going down. So the security token, the real world asset industry has historically, which is only 4 or 5 years old, been totally tied to the price of Bitcoin, even though that doesn't make a lot of sense, because real world assets are you can pay for real world assets in a number of different ways. And if you were to use Bitcoin, which most people don't, or fiat currency or stable coins, it essentially shouldn't affect the asset performance. It shouldn't affect the asset itself just because of what it's priced in. Now, acknowledge that if you're in US dollars or Australian dollars, and that exchange rate changes dramatically, and then it does make a lot of difference. My point is that the price of Bitcoin should not have affected the real world asset space historically, but it totally has, because now the industry's, there's maturation of thought and understanding and different assets. If anyone else wants a good tip as well, the recent Masari 2023 report that they broke down into 10 podcasts is awesome. And the reason I just bring that up is because I think the industry has grown in so many different ways over the last couple of years, and different assets, different industries, and just things that weren't around before. So I'm thinking that the Bitcoin ETF is hugely important. I think it's going to bring a lot more people into the whole digital asset industry space. I think it legitimizes the whole space a lot. There's no doubt about it. And more capital. I think also Larry Fink, which we like to quote a lot because he says a lot of good things about our space now, which he didn't previously. He's actually has just said recently. I think I saw him last week saying that the Bitcoin and the crypto is really just is like the pregame to the real show. And the real show is real world asset tokens. Now, I don't think of it exactly like that, but I think that there's some truth to that. Is that more people come into the rails, the more comfortable people are, buying other things, and that's how it works. Most people start in Bitcoin, and the money flows all the way out to eventually to JPEGs of Ether rocks and stuff. So yeah, look, I think it's hugely significant. I think I think it was inevitable. I even have conversations going with one of the largest Bitcoin mining companies now that wants to work with us to start issuing real world asset tokens on the Bitcoin protocol. And they, long story short, they want to just make Bitcoin a lot more useful because, obviously Ethereum is a lot more useful in brackets than Bitcoin. So yeah, look, I think it's awesome. And I think it'll be hugely impactful and beneficial for all cryptocurrencies. And obviously we have IXS, so I'm excited by it.
All right, thanks for that. Okay, and we're jumping into question 4. I could probably take this one. So, is there demand in the Philippines to raise capital via STOs, and do we think there are investors in the Philippines who will buy STOs? Um, yeah, I mean, we've been on the ground a lot in the Philippines. We've been establishing a lot of community partners, and interestingly enough, is that they understand the whole narrative of tokenization of RWAs. And interestingly enough, they even know that it's more than just fundraising. There's a lot of community partners that we've been working with, and the interest has been growing. We've been doing educational initiatives with them. We've got more retail markets in the Philippines that are interested in what IXSwap is doing. And why is that? I mean, if you're bringing the whole technology of investing into an STO for $1, that's really great for an emerging market like the Philippines. And so I feel like a lot of the interest is coming from there. Another thing is with we do have probable prospect partners that would be more than happy to help us distribute a bunch of STOs that we have coming down the pipeline into the Philippine retail market as well. So I think that is a telltale sign that the Philippine market is ready for the tokenization of RWAs. And if not, it's already a discussion that's already being had.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that. I think there's one or two groups that we've been speaking to who want to tokenize Philippine stocks for foreign investors. Just as a kind of slightly related but different, same but different story, because it's very difficult for foreigners to buy Philippines public listed stocks, and it's not really available for retail investors in the Philippines. So there are these companies in the Philippine stock exchange that make huge money, but they're really small market caps because there's a very limited number of people who can buy. So yeah, one angle that Gene just highlighted, which is I think is very true, and I think emerging markets in particular are going to be some of the biggest beneficiaries / I guess volumes for these interesting new products and new ways to buy them. And as you said, for literally $1 USDC, which we've facilitated already. And yeah, again, and then the other side, there's another whole play going on with people trying to bring money into the Philippines for foreigners, because then you got to fly to the Philippines, you got to personally go set up a bank account there to buy anything, and you must buy $1 million. I don't know the exact rules, something like that. Sounds like it's total headache.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah.
All right. Okay. Thanks for that, Julian. Yeah, let's jump into question 5. So, what are the future developments planned for user and business onboarding, and what will the team focus on first?
Yeah, I think has Aaron finally joined us? Do you want to? I think I just saw his pretty face there. Is that the real Aaron, or is that another scammer who's coming in to message everyone on our channel?
I think this
again?
might be the real Aaron.
That's the real Aaron. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to take this one, Aaron? Okay.
Yeah, I guess I can share a little bit about what the focus is, at least for the first 2 quarters. What we're doing, at least on the development side right now, is that we're actually cleaning up the whole system. We are getting the systems ready for a larger influx of users to come on. We're upgrading all our dependencies on the platform to make sure that it's squeaky clean. We are seeing a larger influx of users now coming onto the platform, signing up. So we want to make sure that all that is up and ready by the time we do get a larger influx and large trading volume starting to happen on the platform. Other than that, I guess a large focus for us this year is going to be on user acquisition and launching more deals into the platform. So right after, I guess the cleanups have been done, we are going to be upgrading the KYC system to make it more automated for more users to come on board. We have had a lot of roadblocks, I guess, with the KYC, I guess, over the last couple of months, purely because I think we're also targeting a lot of regions that might not satisfy a lot of requirements that most jurisdictions would require. But we've gone through this on the compliance and legal side, and we've done some assessments, and we are going to be adjusting the KYC to, I guess, use other sorts of verification methods to confirm people's identity now, which also aligns with our sort of compliance requirements in the Bahamas. And then beyond that, what we're also going to be developing is a sort of a multi-level referral system on IXS. That is to drive more, I guess, investments and more volumes on the platform. This is sort of, I guess, the initiative that we've been planning for a while. We've released the first stage of it already, which is a referral sort of link on the platform. So if anyone signs up through these referral links, and someone else invests through the platform, you're actually getting a cut out of the commissions that IXSwap would actually get from the deals as well. So that's one initiative that we're going to be pushing out. So a large focus for us this year is really just going to be growing the platform, growing the revenues, and then from there, burn more IXS token, and hopefully the token price goes up.
All right. Thanks for that, Aaron. Yeah, let's just jump into question 6 here. So when can we expect new RW Accelerator partnerships to come online? And is there a lot of interest?
Yeah, so there has been quite a fair bit of applications for the RW Accelerator program right now. What we're doing now is actually sifting through the applications and doing the due diligence on the different applicants that come to the platform. There are a lot of applicants that are just trying to join the program for a cash grab, which is something that we are trying to avoid. So we're properly assessing these sort of clients, and then once we've done the proper due diligence, then we're going to bring them on board and have a full program for these guys to launch their assets off the sort of IXS Prime SaaS instead, and then incorporate these assets into the IXS text as well. So likely looking at this towards the end of Q1 instead.
Okay. All right. Let's jumping into the next question here. So is InvestX and IXSwap applying for new licenses in other regions? And if so, where?
We're not applying for any licenses right now. That said, we have been looking into a couple of different jurisdictions just to expand the repertoire of licenses that we do have. But as of for now, we think that the licenses that we have in Singapore and the licenses in Bahamas cover us for most jurisdictions as it is already, other than, I guess, the US right now.
Okay. And I guess question number 8, maybe this is directed more towards Julian. So I think Julian mentioned a new staking program. I think the community wants to get more information on this.
Yeah, so just that last one. For those that don't know, licenses take years. So the exchange license InvestorX took 4 years. The licenses in IXSwap has been probably over 2+ years already. So, and you know, they can handle global products for global investors. There's some rules around that, but yeah, getting licenses is a necessity. It's not like a joyride. So we've kind of got nearly every license that we need right now. So it certainly doesn't detract or devalue the platform. Not constantly trying to get kind of new licenses. Ultimately, you want to operate with as few licenses as possible. Cryptocurrency industry showed us that's what most people are trying to do. But yeah, we'll keep our eyes open. Jurisdictions are always trying to compete with each other. A lot of jurisdictions are also pull a bit of a bait and switch with people and start, in the cryptocurrency space, you've seen this, give out a license to Binance, Binance doesn't really even have the license, or they haven't even determined the terms. Everyone jumps to this new country, moves over there, starts lining up for licenses, and the government hasn't even worked out what the licenses are. And 3 years later, 99% of people don't get anything. So, got to be really cautious when you see, these new rules coming out in the blockchain space all around the world, and make sure that the governments aren't just, the governments change as well. Right? People inside change, the views change, and it's very, very difficult to navigate. Anyway, we're good for now on that. On the staking, well, we're just doing some more analysis on it to see whether it's beneficial for the platform. A super majority of incentive programs in crypto are very short-term, value-driven, and ultimately end up being detrimental to the long-term value of the project, the platform, the token, and everyone who's holding it. So we've had our own lessons in that space. So I don't have any concrete information on that right now. And essentially, a large percentage of people that come out of any liquidity mining program just dump the token that day. So I've seen also the whole value that is built on that mining program and then just lost the next day. And, the people who care most about this are us, because we're running the project long term. And so if it just gives this shorter term pump and dumps and no value for the long term project, then we're not going to do it. But we're very keen to look at new listings, exchange listings, and new ways to build the community, get more members, get more hodlers, and get more people buying it, more use case. So that's on the liquidity side. What was the next one there, Jim?
Yeah, the next question is still for you, Julian. So I think you posted recently on X about upcoming news for some degens. What is that news?
Oh, yeah, there's quite a bit of good stuff coming. We're raising some new money right now. I'm not going to name the brands. They're pretty big. I think we need to wait a little bit longer. But yeah, we're also working on some new exchange listings. I think this year we want to hit 3 or 4 and build our way up to some tier ones. Essentially, ultimately, I think we need to get onto Coinbase. That's not the plan today. We're not talking about that right this now, but that would ultimately the end game would make a lot of sense, especially with all their moves to RWA. Yeah, so I think there's some big news coming down the pipeline. Communities have to hold out a little bit longer. Gene's leading all our marketing efforts, so he'll keep you guys informed the minute that things are coming out and ready to go.
All right. Okay, I think we're coming down to the last 2 questions here. So the second to the last question being, can bank partners issue tokenized assets on IXSwap? And can they also bring their investors and users to IXSwap?
Yes, they could, technically and legally. Will they do it? Not right now. It kind of leads me into a point that I was discussing today with you guys, Gene. There's a misconception that the banking world, I wouldn't put it this way. Banks are notoriously closed walled gardens. They don't want to share anything with anybody. Will blockchain change that? Don't really think so. Banks have started tokenizing bank products on private blockchains. Yes, some public chain, but more for efficiencies to save money and remove back office and admin costs. So save money is the same as making more money. So that's what banks have been doing. It's great. It's good that they're bullish on that. I think they haven't been doing private market assets on paper. So they weren't raising money for startups typically. I'm just talking very generally. They weren't raising money for private real estate deals. They weren't doing any in the private market space. And for those that don't know, the private market industry asset is everything that's not publicly listed, which is somewhere between 8 and 10 times bigger than the public markets. So essentially, you could think of it like the banks run $1 of assets, and the private markets run $9 of assets, right? And so whether the banks come in or out right now, I don't think it's hugely important. The banks got eaten alive by fintech platforms, payment platforms. There's a whole world of startups that exist because banks generally suck, and they haven't. They're now only selling Bitcoin because they think they can make money. I mean, they all hated it, last year, and now they finally realize they can make money, so they start selling it. And they change their tone, and they're completely hypocritical and completely contradict everything they said, last week. That aside, if banks want to buy our products and we can make money, and we'd be happily able to do it. We have done one project with UBS Bank so far, tokenizing the Singapore fund vehicle. I see banks purely as distribution channels, and we do have a bunch of them that want to work with IXSwap, and we're just working out, if that makes any sense to us, and if they want to do a private little version of it, which I'm not really interested in doing, unless there's money in it that makes sense for the platform. But so ultimately, we kind of stay open-minded to it. I think what's much more interesting than banks is Coinbase and players like Grab Finance and Robinhood and all these sort of digital native platforms that don't come with bank overhang, and that are big believers in the space and want to add more assets to their user bases. Grab Finance has a couple of 100 million wallets. Ant Finance has a couple of 100 million wallets. Coinbase 110 million wallets. Other crypto exchanges hundreds of millions of wallets. So I think there's a big misconception that the banks are needed almost, or that's where the money's at. And I think banks will continue to do what they've always done, which is their own thing. But ultimately, I think they'll be distribution partners for us. Does anyone in this chat group here want to buy tokenized bank products? Probably not. But yeah, if we can make money out of it and get more users, we'll do it. That's my spin on it. Aaron might have a different take.
I mean, I know I'm aligned with you. I don't think banks have been notoriously known for not sharing anything that they have, and they want to keep everything within their own organizations. I mean, banks don't even share with other banks, which is why there's still so many issues within the banking system. And that's why that issue in Singapore happened a while ago, right? The whole money laundering case as well. So, I mean, ultimately, I think that the banks will issue assets at some point. They started to issue some assets. I'm not sure if there are any buyers of these assets at all. And will we be able to distribute it? But I'm not sure whether they would be keen to distribute things for us, because I mean, if you understand the banks, most of what they care about is how much fees can I get and how much money can I make, or how can I reduce my costs, right? So if you don't sort of fulfill any of those conditions, then most of the time the banks don't want to work with you. So most likely situations that they'll issue the assets, and then you have all these external asset managers like us or other broker-dealer platforms that are distributing the products that the banks are issuing. Same with BlackRock as well.
Yeah. Well, and ultimately, excuse me. Ultimately, there are huge pools of users elsewhere, right? What the banks are trying to do now is, and they're doing a pretty poor job at it, is providing these crypto products that are 10x better other places. But obviously they have a captive audience, and they'll hold on to that as long as possible and try and milk it as long as possible. The last point on this is I remember a funny story a couple of years ago. I'll leave the bank unnamed because we'll be friendly with everyone and we're commercial. But we pitched RWAs to a global bank headquartered in Switzerland and Singapore, and it was the first time they'd ever heard of it. And at the time we were calling it security tokens, and we're talking about how investors could buy these real estate tokenized funds, and instead of being stuck in them for 15 years, they could trade them, and there's all these huge benefits. It's going to be great for investors. And the managing partner, we finished talking, and I was actually in the room with this really sophisticated US real estate group who was really far forward thinking. This goes back 4 years, with a great product. We were going to issue it for them. And he listened very intently, and he leaned across the table and he goes, okay, I think I get what you're saying. And then he said, it sounds great. We will never ever going to do this. We're never ever going to. He's like, what we do here is we onboard clients, and then we we're never going to let them go, and anybody's going to squeeze them for money. We don't want to give them any liquidity. We just want to lock them up for as long as possible. And this is what he told us, and that was the end of that meeting. So I don't necessarily think anything's really changed in that space, but that's how it is. But either way, if we can make money out of it, we will, but they're certainly not the focus.
All right, thanks for those answers, gentlemen. And I think we're boiling to the last question. So saving the best for last, what's the roadmap for 2024 and what is the vision for 2025?
You want to go first, Aaron? I don't think I've thought to 2025, but we've definitely got a lot of plans for 2024.
Yeah, I think I shared quite a bit of what we are focusing on, for the next half a year at least. In terms of development, post, the referral programs and upgrading of the models, that's going to depend on, the funding round, on how much we end up raising at the end of the day or how quickly we end up raising. We have been discussing for quite a while already to start upgrading the swap models on IXSwap. It's a bit old already and it's not very efficient in terms of liquidity. So that's something that we look to do, in the second half this year once the funding round closes.
Yeah, probably to summarize it, a couple of new exchange listings is a top priority. Getting better quality, bigger assets on the platform is a top priority. Partnerships with platforms that have large user bases is a top priority. That's both sides, like issuance capability, like in terms of pipelines of products, and also on the distribution side, tons of users that where they can't issue these assets themselves, but they could become players. Yeah, and just making sure the platforms work as well. There's a lot of movement, I'd say, or activity in the stablecoin space. For those that don't know, IXSwap was built fiatless, so pure, digital currency for digital security. And there's a whole lot of things going on in and around that. So I think this year also, I'd like to see the payment rails expand, and that sounds a lot easier than it is. I'm not going to get into this topic. We could speak about this topic for hours, but anyway, so yeah, better payment rails, more payment rails. It's very, very complex, and part of the reason banks still exist in terms of cross-border payments, and different people can pay here and there. So that's a big one on there, and trying to get the product humming. And yeah, I think that's probably the key ones for now. And then there's a lot of features and functions that we have a list of that we haven't implemented yet. That Uniswap's on V4, IXSwap's on V1. So if you think about it like that, there's quite a lot of things going on. Yeah, and I'd like to do a partnership with Uniswap as well. Speaking with those guys, we've positioned the platform as the Uniswap for RWA and STO. So Uniswap's very interested to see what we might be able to do together, as much as we are very interested to work with them and their many, many millions of users. So that's probably a wrap. I actually have to wrap it up here, Gene, because I think there's another AMA with the whole group out of Dubai.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
All right. Thanks for the AMA tonight, guys. I think that's mostly it for the questions. So we do have another Julian does have another AMA. If you guys want to join on there, go ahead and check that out in our X.
Yeah.
So I think we'll leave that for that now.
All right, cool. Thanks, Gene. Thanks, everyone, for joining. I hope that was useful. We'll put the transcripts out for all the rest of the crew that couldn't make it.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Cheers, man. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye.